Welcome to the Orlando Sentinel's editorial board interview for Osceola County Commission District 5, where Dianna Liebnitzky, who is a candidate for State House in 2022 and has a background in healthcare administration, is challenging incumbent Ricky Booth. Booth was first elected to the County Commission in 2020, and prior to that, served on the school board. So we are going to start with one of the very stark and key differences between the two of you. Your position on the proposal to build an extension of a major roadway through Split Oak Forest, a preserve jointly owned by Orange and Osceola counties. The first question I have is this: do you believe the Battle of Split Oak is over, and do you believe it should be? And let's start with Ms. Liebnitzky.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity actually to open with a conversation about Split Oak. That is, I think, a cornerstone of everything that's going on when it comes to rural boundaries and putting policies in place, and also to adhering to policies that we do have in place that are now trying to be torn down and taken over. I really give a lot of kudos to Orange County for the things that they're trying to do. I actually work right across the street from them. Many of the people who are working on this right now. I really give them a lot of kudos for that, trying to protect the land, trying to keep their alignment with the people and what the people want. If you look at history down through that area, studies that have been done before where we've actually had community members to speak on the issue. A very well done one was from 2011 in the Narcoossee area, talking about the types of development that they wanted and what they expected. And the county commission at that time had agreed, and they had made them a promise that that's how things would go forward. It's a very well done technical report. I do a lot of technical writing and reading and research. And it was a very done technical report. But when you get to the end, when you see what the outcome actually was, what they had promised was not at all what they delivered. It continues to not be delivered. You can go drive through there and see for yourself. I'm very close with many of the people from the Split Oak group on both sides, and I will continue to support that. I think it's a cornerstone for Florida, for the development in Florida, and what we use on our next steps. It's an absolute yes that we continue.
All right, Commissioner Booth, same question.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, the Narcoossee overlay is still in place, right? That's why you don't see apartment complexes on the Osceola part of Narcoossee, right? That was Commissioner Hawkins back in 2013, did a great job with the residents there. I still am involved with the people that help, were the architects of that, the residents, and we work together all the time on things that happen inside the new Narcoossee overlay. I think on Split Oak, reasonable people can disagree, right? I've tended to lean on the side of the Audubon Society, the Florida Wildlife Commission, the Florida Conservation Trust. I mean, your editorial board, right, supported it originally and has retracted that support and taken a different stance. So look, if the commission wanted to have a discussion about having a vote in Osceola, certainly I've always taken direction from the voters in Osceola. But look, my family's been protecting agriculture and environmental lands for generations, 6-7 generations in Central Florida. So doubling in size of Split Oak is a good thing. Transportation infrastructure is a good thing. But I think reasonable people can disagree, just as your editorial board has done.
Thank you. That's a good point. I did want to ask though about the transportation infrastructure. Most of the critics of this proposal to extend the parkway say it isn't really needed for current residents, that it would mostly serve some big land interests who want to build basically another city there. Do you believe this is accurate? And do you believe do you believe that's a fair criticism of the project? And I'd like to start with Commissioner Booth.
You broke up a little bit, but I think you were asking about, is the infrastructure needed? I mean, I would say yes. Any transportation infrastructure, especially in that corridor, if you see the massive amounts of growth that's happening just north of the line. You know, our Narcoossee overlay has limited some of the multifamily style growth that would happen there. But if you look at all the multifamily growth that has happened across the line, you know that we need transportation infrastructure. When I came on board, you know, a lot of these things were already in place. I think one thing we did do in that area, creating the Northeast Development District in Sunbridge, helps create metrics that say if you don't have certain targets for employment center or certain targets for transportation infrastructure, then you have to discontinue or stop building residential units at that time. And I think that's a great plan. And I think we put that plan forward as much as we can throughout the county.
Thank you. Ms. Liebnitzky.
So I think that the comments made are very contrary to reality. You can drive through the area and just see it for yourself. Putting a road directly where they want to put it right now is not the best structure whatsoever. One of the problems we're having in Osceola County, which there was a flyer that just came out with, I think 10 or 12 different roads that are immediately going to be under construction, which my opponent, you know, of course, took full credit for, are all blossoming at one time. There's no real metrics that were done with it. There was not an official traffic study that was done that's anywhere publicly available. And having worked with Road and Bridge in other counties and trauma development programs, I can tell you that the metrics are really failing. They're bringing a lot of these roads to bottlenecks and just not actually doing a thoroughfare. And also the fact that they haven't actually done a true study. When is enough enough? When is it 2-lane, 4-lane, 6-lane? Or do we immediately go to highways and expressways, which is one of the conversations, which is insane. Back to the Split Oak issue specifically, that will actually take away from a lot of the serenity of the situation that is there right now and that they're trying to keep and naturalize and to keep under protection. When the Board of County Commissioners decide to go and sue their own people against that situation, that is unacceptable. When you're trying to sue your own people, when you as Board of County Commissioners are hired to represent the voice of the people, that's quite unacceptable. I do understand that there's another offer for a different type of land and so forth, but you have to listen to the people who are there first, because they're trying to protect something that they consider very, very secure and very important to them.
Thank you for that answer. I wanted to stay with growth and ask about growth management sort of elsewhere in the county. Do you believe that there are specific additional portions of the county where growth and municipal annexation should be limited? And where are they? And we will start with Ms. Liebnitzky.
So growth is inevitable. If you look at, you know, world population and so forth, we in Osceola County aren't saying we don't want anybody to come. We don't want there to be growth. We don't want these things to occur. But the fact of intelligent design does not exist in most of the planning that we have right now. There's ways to develop lovely community that are multi-family, multi-groups live in a smaller area, such as one of the really cool places is the Health Village and Ivy Health Village that's in Orlando. It has all of the pieces and parts right there at the fingertips of the community members to really access very well and to have a wonderful life with. Very walkable community. They still have buffers around it. They still have things accessible. There's a lot of things, even in Seminole County actually has done a wonderful job with their limiting the expansion into the rural communities, keeping those buffers, keeping some of that sanctity in place as well. There's a number of communities throughout Florida that have done that. They're real gold star. We're not saying don't create something like a very condensed area such as we see in Celebration, where you have all of the services at your fingertips, but the people on the outer edges of eastern Osceola County really want to have those small ranchette type securities that are there, the 1, 2, 5, 10 acres of land secured. Right now, they're trying to take away some more farmland, some more ranch land. And if you go and drive through Osceola County right now, where the roads are already tearing through, they're literally taking people's front yards and taking the road to their front yard. That is not what Osceola wants or needs. Intelligent design.
Thank you for that. Mr. Booth, same question, asking about
Yeah.
additional portions where annexation should be limited.
Yeah, so look, I've voted against more development than any commissioner in the history of Osceola County. I mean, that's a fact. And Orange County's having this argument right now, right, about an urban growth boundary. 60% of our county is outside the urban growth boundary. Now, I don't agree how fast we're growing inside the UGB, because that is creating transportation infrastructure. I've said this dozens of times, hundreds of times maybe, from the dais at the county commission. But there are things like our rural enclaves in Great Oaks, where the county wanted to change it to industrial. I stood with the residents and we got that taken out. Starline is another rural enclave within the UGB, where the county wanted to come in. Somebody came in with a residential project. I led the fight there to say no. When we created our master plan for the Alligator Lake corridor, I worked with our St. Cloud City Council, because we both agreed we didn't have enough commercial and industrial and employment center place in the master plan there. We doubled that in that plan. I still voted against it because it's too many residents without the infrastructure in place. But at least my fight there created our SEATS plan, our Southeast Transportation Plan, where it lays out a plan going forward for the roads. In that plan, I also created a 50-acre aggregation rule in the manor, which essentially protects these 1 acre, 2 acre, and 5 acre lots, because somebody would have to put 10, 15, 20 of them together to come to the county with the plan development. So there's only one area in the manor that fits this size. And when they came to the county commission, they were turned down, and I led the fight on that, worked with the residents. Though I was already fighting it at zoning, the residents came in during the planning process. I voted against the rezoning, and then led the fight to actually ultimately get it denied. So, and I've also led the fight for the highest. We already have the highest impact fees in the state. And I'm fighting to try to double and even triple them, especially on residential growth. I have concerns about commercial.
Thank you. And actually, once again, we walked right into the next question, and that is concurrency. We've already had some school board candidates tell us that they'd like to see the county do a better job of matching growth to the availability of schools and other resources, roads, emergency services, healthcare, libraries. Should the commission work more closely with the school board and others to identify those areas where those resources are lacking? And should there be constraints on growth until those resources are in place, which would be a different kind of growth management? And let's start with the commissioner.
Yes, absolutely. And I fought that for 6 years when I was on the school board. I think concurrency is fantastic. Unfortunately, over the years, the state legislative body has, chipped away at home rule. And I would certainly like to fight to get some of those rights back. I think local rights where we can control and say, where the school board has more of a say, that they could say, no, we can't keep up with this. But, when I was on there, we just had to submit a state approved letter to say, well, we probably can do this. And that's how they have it set up. So yeah, I would 100% love to see all of the state of Florida go back to the old style of concurrency. I think the one good thing that came out of all those changes that happened, 15, 20 years ago, was the urban growth boundary. And I know Orange County doesn't have one, but Osceola, and I know they're fighting for one now, but Osceola does. And it consolidates the growth inside the UGB. Now we have not, we were behind on transportation when I came on. We're spending a ton of money to catch up. And, but without these hard rules for concurrency, we're going to continue to see the school district have trouble, keeping up, although they do a great job, by the way. And we're going to have trouble keeping up with transportation. So I'm going to continue that fight. I'm going to continue voting no on any residential development that has a negative impact on our transportation infrastructure.
Ms. Liebnitzky.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So I think that the story on the voting and the agreeing to the developments is not quite factual. If you go into the development, some of these houses have 4 to 6 cars just per home. They're not even, the roads are not accessible for EMS and law enforcement to get through, which are my brothers and sisters. I come from that side of the world. And just to be able to talk about the infrastructure, that's what we need when we need intelligent design. There's been no factual studies done. There's been no assessments. What they're doing, there's a bigger plan that they're hiding from the community. They have all of these little enclaves of mixed residential areas, mostly with lease type properties, townhomes, small apartment buildings, going all out into the rural area. And then they think they're going to cut roads through, like they're still going to be doing through Story Road, even though they're not telling the truth about that, because otherwise those cars over there aren't moving. And that's not what transportation is about. Transportation, when you have these large developments, is not about bringing 1,000 more cars onto the roads by putting a bigger street. It is about what are alternate routes of transportation. Is also building those types of homes, those apartments and multifamily homes in a more consolidated area where they have resources at their fingertips. I totally agree. The school system is quite overwhelmed, not only with all of the things of the number of students, but the types of teachers that are available to teach them and to bring them up to modern industry and modern jobs that are available to them. It's a real shame what's happening. And there's a lot more to that, which we are absolutely planning on fighting against. And we did not lose home rule rights. You need to fight for them and stand by them. They're giving them away.
Thank you for that answer. I actually have a sort of related topic. You mentioned sort of the availability of services across the county. Do you see opportunities to save money by consolidating services between cities and the county, either through expanding the city's service areas to cover unincorporated spots or through unitary fire or EMS or law enforcement type services? I'll start with you, Ms. Liebnitzky.
So regarding consolidating services, when it comes to such services as we'll say the water and sewer, which has always been a big one, because that will cost each homeowner a significant amount of money, something like about $15,000. And the whole thing about out in the manor and all of that area having been protected, the property behind me was changed to mixed use, and it was a whole big drama with talking to the planning board. They could actually build a small hotel on the 5 acres that is literally backed up to my property. So that's very untrue. All of the area out there is being turned into mixed use. And they put a city fire department at the end of my street, which again, I totally support them. They're great people, but they put one there because their ultimate plan is to annex all that area and force all of those houses to go on city services, talking about utilities. Now, when we talk about other types of services, most of those other services actually need to be sort of under the flag of the county so that those individuals can also bring in and consolidate all of the types of services that are out there that are highly underutilized for health and human services, for connecting our veterans, for connecting our seniors. That's one of my major big points, is getting those humans out in front of all of this conversation and making sure that they have what they need as well. Not just to give them stuff, but there's so much out there that's underutilized that no one in the county level has done a very good job as far as educating our community and getting them what they need and bringing those services to everyone. We're building too much land that is lease type property and not homeowner property, and that will really destroy our tax base as well and cause those who still own the homes to really carry that burden for many of these other issues that they want to put forward.
Thank you for that. Mr. Booth, same question.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, the they that she's talking about is not me, right? I didn't vote to change that to mixed use. I actually voted against the Alligator Lake conceptual master plan. So it passed 4-1, and you have to move forward from there. That's how government works, right? So yeah, when we talk about consolidating services, yes, the city is getting bigger. Osceola County and the city of St. Cloud a long time ago came up with what they call a JPA, which is a joint planning area. So every time there's anything that happens inside this joint planning area, it goes through both the city of St. Cloud and the Osceola County, because we have Toho Water Authority, which is servicing almost all of the county with water and sewer. So yeah, those things are happening already. They've been in place. I'm not going to take credit for them because they were in place before I was there, but I have certainly always worked with our city councilman when it comes to things that happen in the JPA. When you talk about new fire stations, we are right now collaborating with the city of St. Cloud, because as they annexed further east, they're going to actually take over where some Osceola County fire stations are. So we've got to work together to help St. Cloud build those and St. Cloud staff those, and they will be able to as they grow. So that those things are already in place. I would celebrate those who had that those thoughts back then to say, hey, St. Cloud and the county should get together and create a joint planning task force, and it's worked really good. Now, look, again, I vote against a lot of overdevelopment because I believe we don't have the transportation infrastructure in play. That's not a secret to anybody, but I think the joint planning area is a good thing. Absolutely, 100%.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask about one of the things that's going to be on the ballot this year. The county's levy to support the purchase of conservation land is set to expire next year. And so it will be back on the ballot for reauthorization. A lot of Florida conservation leaders say that Osceola County has more environmentally sensitive land facing development pressure than any other county in the state. How do you intend to vote? And do you believe that 25 cents, 0.25 mil, I guess is what it is adequate for this program? And Commissioner Booth, if you could start us off on that one.
Yeah, as a commissioner, as a school board member, I've always taken direction from the voters, right? And we're going to do that here at this time. If Save Osceola passes, it allows the county to go out and purchase some environmentally sensitive lands. And just like conversations I've had with our Florida Ag Commissioner Wilton Simpson about, it's one thing to say we're going to go way down to the south part of the county and buy environmentally sensitive lands. It's another thing to say we're going to try to purchase environmentally sensitive lands inside the urban growth boundary. And I think the state of Florida, and I push them all the time to say, hey, take your rural family lands plan and let's buy these where the development pressure is in and around urban growth boundaries in the state. And I would say the same thing for Save Osceola. You take that money, you go out and you buy environmentally sensitive lands within the urban growth boundary so you can preserve those areas as the community grows and develops around it. I'm going to take direction from the voters here. And if they want this program to continue, then we'll continue it.
All right, Ms. Liebnitzky.
Are you asking me this? Okay, there we go. So
Yes,
thank you very much for the question. I just want to start this out by reminding the listeners how that Mr. Booth originally stated, as they continue to annex the lands further east, period, end of conversation. That is the underlying plan, is to continue to get those independent owners of this land, many of them historical owners like myself from family land that was passed down from way back, that they are continuing to annex east. They are putting, as an example out in the manor, they're putting sewer and electricity and everything that we don't use. We have our own out there so that all of the areas around us can engulf us and can become annexed to the city, which we know is already a plan. And then ultimately they wrap around and then they annex everybody in and force the other parts. But that's one, just one small part of what they're doing. And as far as the conservation and saving the conservation port, it does need to be the voters. But I also go back to, we have a ridiculous budget this year that is absolutely out of control. There's no metrics to it. There's no way to define if what they've already done has already done the correct thing. Do we need to pull some of that back and reassign that money? Absolutely. We do need to have more focus on EMS and law enforcement. And also to note, again, this has been my life for many years. I've been a disaster responder. Major kudos to our Osceola team, who was a frontline responder to the hurricane up at Debbie up in the Big Bend area. That was always one of my jobs as well. We need to look at the things that we're doing and better resource them. We don't need to add any more taxes. We need to utilize what we have much better and give back to the people. If the people speak, which I bet you they will, they are going to say they want this money protected, but I'm not sure they're going to say, I'm going to give you more of my tax money. They're going to say, get your spending under control, which really needs to get done. It's ridiculous.
Thank you for that. I'll move on to a slightly different topic. Given that most affordable housing projects will take place inside of city limits, What can the county do to bolster the supply of workforce housing to make it easier on the county's legions of hospitality workers? We'll start with Ms. Liebnitzky.
Thank you very much. There is a lot of opportunities, and that's exactly how I said that affordable housing, multifamily housing, apartment type housing, those types of housing do need to be more in a city-sized environment where the roads, the infrastructure, and the ease of access to employment is there. One thing about Osceola County at large, St. Cloud, Kissimmee, there's not a lot of restaurant work processes like that there. The hotels and things that are in Osceola County, except for the far west side, really don't conduct businesses that would serve those individuals very well. So they'll even have farther areas to go to, such as the Orlando area, the Orange County area for Disney and those type of businesses. To develop for that, to bring them there is not necessarily serving them well if that's the focus that we're bringing. What we need to bring into our area and develop is programs for actual craftsmen, apprenticeships across the board, healthcare. We need to get a lot more things that we can do there, manufacturing that will build safe and sensitive, so that we're not using things like building chips on top of the aquifer, which is absolutely ridiculous of Neo City. We have to bring those things there. Just to say that it's like service type workers at that level is not going to help the economy, and it's not going to help those individuals to be so far away from those types of settings. They don't exist in Osceola County.
Thank you. Mr. Booth, same question.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, so we've done over 1,200, I think, affordable housing units in Osceola County in the 4 years that I've been on the commission. Look, they need to be in the urban infill centers. They need to be by the employment centers. We need to protect our agriculture and environmental lands on the east side and have affordable housing opportunities where the jobs are. Now, look, I certainly push for employment centers to come to the east side of the county, but that's where our affordable housing units need to go. We've done about 12, or we've built or plan to build about 1,200 of those units. But we also have to remember that, this is a regional issue, right? So we have to work with our regional partners, especially Orange County to the north. They're much better equipped to handle this situation than we are. But certainly we're going to do our part, and I believe we have.
Great, thank you for that. Next question. Does Osceola County have an adequate network of resources to meet mental health and healthcare needs? And what more can the county do to help? And I will start with Mr. Booth for that one.
Oh, yeah. Microphone's still on. Yeah, absolutely. So I got to sit down recently with Captain Chapman from the Salvation Army, and we're going to have the resource center going out on the west side. I am the commissioner that serves on the public safety coordinating council. So I get to hear about our inmate status, and I get to hear about our how we're working to decrease recidivism and how the county can invest more in that. Certainly we can do a lot better. I think every county can do better, but we have some great partners at Park Place, such great partners. And I can't remember the name of the company that does it, but they do a great job working with our inmates as they come out and try to reduce recidivism. And I love that I get to serve on that committee and work to increase the budget for those folks.
Thank you. Ms. Liebnitzky, same question.
Thank you. I think the real focus needs to be on the people who live there, who work there, who need those quality of life support systems, such as our elders. Healthcare is massive for every single person. I think we have a lot of opportunities to bring healthcare there, more educational schools and programs for healthcare as well. Healthcare is highly underserved, highly staffed. I can tell you stories. I could talk about that for an hour without stopping. And I really think that those needs to be the first focus are the daily lives of our people. I understand recidivism and all of that, believe me, worked in that world when I grew up in Miami to support many of those programs. I do believe that we have a lot of people who can become suddenly homeless. I think that they're doing some good work out towards Kissimmee, out on the west side, with some of those issues. But our focus needs to be our core people every single day to get them the services that they need, because they're really missing on that. Also, when you talk about serving on public safety, then you should know that, as I do, that when we have public safety, any major event, that you have MOUs, memorandums of understanding. We all work together. When I'm deployed, we all work together as one solid unit, and we need to continue that training. I actually help to implement the EMS Trauma Trust Fund that lives at the state level, that actually has, over a number of years, brought a lot of money down to the local state areas to support the development of many of these programs for EMS and law enforcement to better serve the community and to have the equipment that they need and the education. I think that's really important. And I'm really curious why Osceola County so underutilizes and goes after that money to continue to build our system. I will teach them how. I wrote it. So I'll make sure that they get that money.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about an interesting phenomenon. Osceola County has kept its manager much longer than many counties do. Don Fisher has been on the job since 2010. Are you satisfied with his performance? And is he somebody who you think is doing a good job for the county? And we'll start with Ms. Liebnitzky.
I think there's a lot of opportunities there for him maybe to be a little more transparent in what he's doing and how he's doing it. I know there's been a lot of things kind of behind the scenes that have been very, very questionable. I'll start with the planning team as an example. The commissioners are very, very afraid to vote against anything that the planning group passes whatsoever. They're afraid they're going to turn around and get sued. So all of this conversation about voting against them, it's all a behind the scenes agreement, because they know it's still going to get passed. There's some deals going on, and we're going to break the wheel of that, and we're going to get Osceola County back to being transparent and having leaders that are chosen by the people to do exactly that and adhere to the policies and the processes they need to go into. This is not a negative or a positive for Mr. Fisher whatsoever. We're just talking about he is in a fortunately unfortunate position where he's kind of the next person down where the river flows to say, hey, are you really holding these people accountable? So I think we're going to see a big turnover. I think we're going to see a lot of people being held accountable in ways that they can't even imagine just yet, because we have a lot of things going on. And if you look at who supports those individuals financially behind the scenes, there's a lot of questions. So we'll just have to kind of work through that and see what the truth is, and we'll bring it out.
Thank you. Mr. Booth, same question on
Yeah.
the manager, Don Fisher.
Yeah. So first of all, Don Fisher is an honest and good and decent man. And I think he's done a fantastic job as our county manager. We do not agree every time, right? But that's okay. I've served as an elected official for 10 years, and I can tell you, I believe the hardest job to do inside whether it's the school district office or the county office, is to be either like a superintendent or a county manager, because you're getting pulled all the time, and you guys know, in 5 different directions. And I certainly do, right? Scared to vote no. I mean, that's comical, right? I've voted no more than anybody in the history of the county. So, and certainly I don't mind having those disagreements, but the way I do it is with integrity and with decency. And I think in politics now, you see a shift going the other way, whether if you're on the left side or the right side, you're getting pulled all the way out on both of those sides, and arguing and just spreading misinformation, and acting in a way that you would be embarrassed if your child acted that way. So yeah, I support. Don has put together a great team, right? I think we have probably one of the best transportation directors in the state, in Tawny O'Lory, and she's leaving us to go to the National Science Foundation, but she's a fantastic leader, and has been a champion of getting us money, getting the turnpike to expand, getting CFX to get pumping and get churning and spending, we're doing $600 million of road work right now, 800 million in the queue, billions from the Turnpike and CFX, and Don and his team are doing a good job managing it. Doesn't mean I agree with him on everything. I certainly don't. But Don is a good, decent man. And I'm just disappointed to hear some of that stuff.
Well, there is so much else we could ask you about, and I, during the course of this interview, I thought of 5 more things that I'd like to ask, but we are all busy people. So what I'd like to do in just a few minutes is ask you both to make your closing pitch as to why you should be the person elected for the next term for Osceola County Commission. But first, I'd like to remind our readers that we are going to make an endorsement in this race, but we don't expect you to stop there. Both these candidates have websites. They both have, or websites or social media presences, or both. And there have been forums. There will be our excellent news coverage. There is also their contribution list, all kinds of sources for information that you can take a look at and decide which of these two best matches your own values for Osceola County and its future. So the most important thing, though, is to remember on or before August 20th, you do need to vote in this race because that will be your shot. So with that, I would like to invite Ms. Liebnitzky to give us her pitch on why she should be the person chosen in this race. Let you go first.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity for the closing comments, and I appreciate the fact that Mr. Booth also joined us. We've tried multiple times to get a conversation going, so kudos to the Orlando Sentinel for making that happen. I appreciate you all. So in closing statement, as a county commissioner, I will serve the people as their representative, as their voice, and I will listen to everyone. My whole life, my whole career has been about putting the human first and foremost in all that we do. We have things that are yet going to occur in Osceola County that we can't even imagine yet. Having been in trauma and development and all of the things that I've done in my lifetime and always prepared for the next unknown, that's what we'll be focusing on. We have a lot of work to do in the development and getting agreements and keeping areas safe and condensed and bringing resources to the people and connecting people. I do think that we have other places to look at as well that are great examples, and I'll be working very closely with many of the representatives from those areas that look at what worked for them, what was best practice, what opportunities we have. But one thing I will always be is available to the people, transparent and truthful, and I will be bringing integrity back to the Board of County Commissioners, which is the reason that many people came to me and asked me to run. So I really appreciate the time to talk about that. Law enforcement and EMS will have my full support in all of the development needs that they have, as well as, of course, our school system. We are highly underutilized and under supported in many of those areas there across not only just the elementary, junior high, high school system, but our college system. I'm also an adjunct professor for EMS and law enforcement at Valencia, and I know that those types of colleges also need a lot of support. So thank you very much for my opportunity to speak to everyone. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much. And Commissioner, you want to close us out?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for you guys doing this. I appreciate it. Glad to do it. I've done it each and every time before. First of all, my cell phone number is 407-908-9866. Everybody has it. It's everywhere. It's the number I use on all my county cards. So anybody can get a hold of me anytime they want to, and they do, believe me. Proud to be endorsed by our firefighters. Proud of all the work that I've done to increase their wages, to build 3 new fire stations. Proud that they've endorsed me. We've talked about limiting growth, and my stance is there. Talked about protecting our agricultural lands and our natural resources. I want to touch on education because we didn't get to, because I think one of the things I'm most proud of, and it goes back to my time on the school board, is our Osceola Prosper. Before I got on the school board, I was part of the GAC college program. Osceola County was 61st in college going rate. So the minds around the county got together, and I got to be one of those minds as a school board member and then a county commissioner. And we worked for years and years. How do we make this better? Finally, a few years ago, we implemented a plan called Osceola Prosper. Today, we have the fourth highest college going rate, higher than Orange, higher than Seminole, in Osceola County, and it's because we provide opportunities for every high school graduate to go to Valencia College or OTEC and get a trade. It's not just for college, it's for trades as well, because think about building the workforce like that. 6,500 students have taken advantage of that. I come from a family of educators. My wife was an educator, and both my parents. And then on top of that, not just talking about Valencian trade schools, but how about Neo City Academy, right? We built that school. I voted to build that school when I was on the school board. It is the #1 school in our region and the 11th best school in the state. So we're doing some really great things in Osceola County. You've heard me talk about all the other county stuff, but our collaboration with our school district is unmatched. So I ask for your vote on or before August 20th, and thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you both so much. I think this has been a great discussion, and I will wish you both the best of luck and remind everybody else that you need to vote on or before August 20th.